The Nigerian Group Exchange, which is Nigeria's official stock market, is about to lose about 224.23 billion naira in capitalization as a result of the delisting of Union Bank of Nigeria shares. The imminent delisting of the 54-year-old bank followed the acquisition of the shares held by minority shareholders by Titan Trust Bank Limited, the new majority core investor in the bank. Now, 5 other stocks had also been acquired by TTB in recent times, and after the full acquisition of the minority shares, Titan Trust Bank had indicated it would delist UBN and re-register the bank as a private limited liability company, ending 53 years of active listing and trading of the bank and its shares of the first, of course, generation bank at the stock market. So this morning, joining me from Lagos, Nigeria, and indeed West Africa's economic hub is Oladipo Ajayi. Is the head fixed income and FX, Chapel Hill Denham Securities. Thank you so much, Oladipo, once again for joining us on Business Edge. Hello, Oladipo, can you hear me? Okay, so we just had a technical glitch there, but then we will bring Oladipo definitely on the show to have him talk about how this particular delisting of the Union Bank of Nigeria is affecting or will affect the Nigerian stock market. Oladipo Ajayi, are you there now?
Yeah, I'm with you. Good morning, Lekan. Thanks for having me.
Okay, it's a pleasure having you around, Oladipo. Now, the Nigerian stock market is expected to lose about 224.2 billion naira. That's approximately $530 million in value as a result of Union Bank of Nigeria's listing from the market. Now, is this a major shock for the market's capitalization portfolio?
Yeah, for me, it's actually a major shock because in a situation whereby the call has always been for NGS to further encourage other private companies to actually list on the exchange. And when you now see a situation whereby a major institutions is now delisting from the exchange after 53 years of actually appearing on the exchange, it's actually a shock for the market, and I think it's not something that anyone will just can take lightly.
So it is actually believed that when a company with a significant market capitalization value like this is delisted, it can have a ripple effect on the overall economy. So does that actually suggest that we are likely to see the value of other stocks decline probably in the coming weeks?
Oh, no, I don't think these have any direct relationship with any other stocks. Because what it would just do is that it would reduce the total market capitalization, and that is all. But that it will have impact or any direct impact on any stocks on the exchange, no. Because majorly what determines the pricing of any stock on the exchange is firstly what is happening within the business structure of that company and coupled with the overall economic outlook. Those are some of the things that actually determine the pricing of stocks, but not as a result of delisting a particular stocks from the exchange.
Now, looking at it, the 54-year-old bank has entered the final phase of its delisting process after more than 53 years of being listed on the stock markets. And that could also lead to a decrease in liquidity in the Nigerian stock market, as we've been able to establish. So how would this affect investors, most especially investors' confidence in the market?
Well, for me, like I mentioned, the key thing is the fact that investors are actually well paid. Before now, the agreement was that the minority investor would be taken out at 7 naira. But after a long back and forth, it was re-agreed that they would take them out at 7 naira 70 kobo. So it is not even about the fact that they are releasing; it's how you treat your shareholders that determines how the market will react to other stocks. And as we speak, it's not only Union Bank that is on that bench. We have seen GSK also signify intention to actually delist from the exchange. We have seen PZ. We have seen Onabanjo also mention something of such to delist from the exchange at 7.7 kobo. But that they are still going back and forth with the shareholders on the right pricing. So it is not something peculiar to Union Bank, and like I said, it's not something that you want to always see in the market, because what that would do is that will reduce the level of opportunity or investment output for most investors in the country. However, as much as we have seen some stocks or some institutions seeking permission to actually list exchange. Within this year also, we have seen Mikio listed sometime this month. We have seen NIDF also listed on the exchange, and we have also seen BFG delisting from the NESD to actually list on the NGX. So it simply means that as much as we are losing some institutions on the exchange, of course, we are getting other orders to actually join the exchange. But my job would have been if we have been able to retain the existing one, we get other people to also list on the exchange, so as to further increase the market cap of the exchange.
Oladipo, it's quite interesting that the TTB, that is the Titan Trust Bank, is not listed on NGX, but we see it acquiring major stakes or stocks on the market and, of course, becoming a major shareholder. What does that actually tell you about the Nigerian markets?
So I feel that, one thing is that when you are listed on the exchange, there's a lot of stringent rules that you need to follow. You are expected to actually publish your accounts, your annual accounts, and you also must ensure that your quarterly accounts are actually presented and to the exchange within 30 days after the quarter end. There's a lot of stringent rules that you need to need to follow, and that is not as cumbersome as when you are listing as a private company. It's not as cumbersome as when you are actually listing as a public company. So I feel that Titan coming to the market is just the first side of it. I think the end goal will be Titan listing on the exchange, because we've seen a situation because Titan actually operates as a bank. Sometimes, some years back, we see what happened with Equatorial Trust Bank when the Central Bank of Nigeria actually mandates them to actually list on the exchange, so that their results and their financial should be published to the whole world. And at the time when they know that this thing, they actually did like a merger with Sterling Bank, and that they are, and as at that time, Sterling Bank was already on the exchange, so it was easier for them to just merge the Sterling Bank and get listed on the exchange. So in the same way, I feel that this is just a start. I think the end goal for Titan Trust Bank is to end up being on the exchange, because there are a lot of opportunities that actually that is open to companies that are listed on the exchange.
Now, let's look at a few speculations as to why the TTB wants to delist UBN. Now, according to speculators, one is that so that it can, of course, that it is expensive and time-consuming to comply with regulations of stock exchange. And another is that TTB may want to have more control over UBN's operations without having to answer to minority shareholders. So looking at the speculations, what's your take on it?
Well, I mentioned this earlier, that the stringent rules of being listed on the exchange is one of the things that it has a lot of people from actually want to toe that line. But one good thing about it is that when you're listed on the exchange, it actually opens your business up for foreign investments and for other benefit that accrues. For a bank like Titan, I think, like I mentioned, I think in the years to come, Titan will be listed on the exchange because, like I mentioned earlier on, I've seen situation whereby in this market where the central bank mandated banks to actually ensure that they are listed on the exchange, and Titan also fall within this bucket. So I think the first side of it is that they first want to take out all minority shareholders. Then maybe later in the future, now list on the exchange. At that particular point in time, they can now list by introduction into the market, and at that time, they can now open up their business for further investment from local and foreign investors. But I don't think it has to do with the fact that the stringent rules that NGS will likely met on them, because whether they like it or not, they still need to answer to Central Bank of Nigeria.
to look at the issue of stringent rules, or the kind of rules that could help stop or maybe stem the tide of delistings on the Nigerian stock, because some people have said that, or some financial analysts have said that that should come into play because of the negative effects that it has on stocking activities on the Nigerian market. But then let's look at the offer circular for the mandatory takeover offer which actually showed that Titan Trust Bank offered to acquire about 1.928 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo per share of the UBN held stocks by minority shareholders. That's about 7 naira per share now. Of course, you mentioned that earlier. So I just want to find out from you, is the price offer fair for the minority shareholders? And two, we know that MTO is a requirement of the Nigerian law. So what does it specify, looking at the acquisitions like this, the kind of acquisition that the TTB is having over UBN?
Yeah, what the rule says is that when a company has close to about 30% of a company, share, when you have 30% holding of the company, you can actually activate an MTO program. And if you look at Titan already had that 3.41% of the whole company, meaning that what is actually left is about 6.59% that is currently being held by investors or other shareholders. And what Titan did was to actually buy out the remaining shareholders at 7 naira at a time. And talking about the fairness of the price, it simply means that talking about the fairness of the price, it simply means that the shareholders were not comfortable with the price at 7 naira ab initio. And that's one of the reasons why the Titan actually need to actually jack up the price from 7 naira to 7 naira 70 kobo. That's more like a 10% increase from the earlier price that was announced. So for me, I think it's more like a fair price because the rule also mentioned that the buyout price should be like an average of the last 6 months trading. So when you look at the last 6 months trading of Union Bank before the announcement of the takeover, the price was around 7%. Around 7 naira. But investors are still not very comfortable at taking them out at 7 naira. So they actually asked for more, which has been granted to them at 7 naira 70 kobo.
All right, Oladipo, just stay with us for a while. There's still some other things that we need to consider as regards this particular discussion. You're watching Business Edge anyway. We'll be back with more after this break. If you just tuned in, you are watching Business Edge on New Central Television, and we are at this point have been taking a look at some major stocks on the Nigerian market that have been delisted. On top of that list right now is the Union Bank of Nigeria, and as we know, it's 5 other firms have been delisted based on acquisition by Titan Trust Bank. And we have been speaking to Oladipo Ajayi as regards this. So Oladipo, let me just go back to you now. Now, after the full acquisition of the minority shares, TTB had indicated that it would delist UBN and re-register the bank as a private limited liability company. So what is TTB trying to achieve with that on the stock?
Well, what TTB was trying to achieve is that to actually take out the whole shareholders from the business to have the full control of the business. They want to have 100% control of the business. And like I mentioned earlier on, that's more like a short-term goal because there's also the medium to long-term goal. There's a lot of opportunity that accrues to businesses that are listed on the exchange. It simply means that at a glance, you can see the market valuation and also marry the intrinsic value of that particular business. And that's some of the things that TTB will not be able to achieve or enjoy within that time that they are listed as a private business. But the medium to long-term goal of TTB will be to actually get back on the exchange. And I mentioned earlier on that at that time, we could not be listed by introduction to the exchange. That's when they will actually get to actually bring some of other investors into the market. Sometimes you can actually buy a business so as to actually grow the business to a level where you know that you can get a better valuation from what you actually purchased than when you actually purchase things. And I think that's exactly what CTB is trying to do. CTB is looking at it from this perspective that Union Bank is a very good bank, it's a very big bank, and at the same time, there's a lot of value with buying out the banks. So over time, I won't be surprised when they will come back to the market and come and list the stocks above 10 naira. So it simply means that they've been able to win the bank, and they'll be able to actually bring other things into the bank to make it more attractive to investors. So I think in the short term, it could be good for them, but in the long term, I think they will have to come back to the market to list.
Okay, Oladipo, before now, top 5 companies had been delisted from the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And as we know, it is not just because of acquisitions. That is why some banks are being delisted. In some instances, some assets were delisted due to, most especially financial institutions now, due to flouting financial rules and regulations as stipulated by the Central Bank of Nigeria. In some cases, there were issues with dwindling market share and profit portfolio. Now, when it comes to rules guarding or protecting the Nigerian Stock Exchange from being delisted, because of course it affects liquidity, it affects capitalization, it affects investors' confidence in the market. How do you think that the Nigerian Group Exchange should go about moderating issues like this?
Well, I think the first thing that the Nigerian exchange should have done is that to ensure that you encourage companies. It's going to be more aspirations. And like you mentioned, some companies actually delisted because they were going through tough time. And some companies actually delisted because they actually flout the central bank regulations. And one thing about it is that some of those things like regulations, those are some of the things that actually protect shareholders' interest. And when you flout such regulation, if a serious action is not taken against you, of course, it will actually affect investors' confidence in the market. And that's one of the reasons why no one will actually critique the decision of central bank to actually pull that around. And like I mentioned, I said that aside all Union Bank, there are still other stocks that are actually looking at delisting from the exchange. I mentioned GSK. GSK mentioned that their business structure in Nigeria is not working very well again. They are open to exchange rates, foreign exchange rates risk. And as a result of that, they are trying to wind down their business in Nigeria and actually leaving this shop. We've seen a company like PZ that is saying, oh, what we want to do is that we want to delist from the exchange. We want to go private. And like I mentioned, the reasons why you want to go private is that you want to reduce the level of interference with your books from the exchange. And also, we've heard about Onabanjo also trying to actually delist from the exchange and also. So if you look at this together, there are different reasons why companies will want to actually delist. Some maybe to leave the market, some to actually reduce interference with their book. So I think on the back of the SEC and also the NGS, maybe we also need to actually look at a middle ground with some of these institutions and see how best can we work together, because we all are stakeholders in the market, in this market. Regulators are stakeholders, businesses are stakeholders, also investors are also stakeholders in the market. We need to actually look at how best can we further develop the market. And the SEC and NGS should be able to take feedback and use that to actually reenact their rule in a way that it will actually encourage more people to actually use on the exchange than people leaving the exchange.
Okay. Now, Oladipo Ajayi, head Fixed Income and FX, Chapel Hill, Denham Securities, thank you so much for helping us understand issues like this. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much for having me.